You are here today on March 16th, 2014, at the cusp of the spring equinox, also called the vernal equinox. My name is Chris Emmons, and I'm the author of Ormus Modern Day Alchemy, Guide to Ormus Collection Processes. And today we are at an Ormus Group gathering in Marathon, Florida. These gatherings meet monthly, and the outside education piece today is going to be a phone call that we are initiating with Don Nance, the premier alchemist in the United States, highly thought of, does research on his products, assays, determines what's what in this world of Ormus, which we all know the information of Ormus is just in the infancy. The learning curve is so high, but what we know, if just 10% of what we know about this material is true, what we have is a truly unique ability to interface with a material that will give our essences extreme vitality. So we're going to bring Don on now, going to give him our attention, and we welcome you abroad. We'll see how this goes for getting out to the world on YouTube and other places. We'll do the best we can. We do understand this is pure raw data, and the process that we are using, while it does work, the technology will not be as crisp and succinct as you are accustomed to on marketed materials on TV and other places. We love you, and let's bring Don Nance aboard now.
Hello there. My name is Don Nance. I'm an alchemist. I'm an adjunct level member of the International Alchemy Guild, and I'm a master of the Egyptian Essene technology. I've been very successful at this, have made many accomplishments in both the spiritual and practical alchemy. My website is oceanalchemy.com, and the way that I do this for the public is that when someone that can afford to buy the mana Ormus buys it from me, they allow me to be able to give it to people who are ill and can't work and can't afford to buy it. So that way you're helping me to pay it forward. And that's the way it was done for me, and that's the way that I give back. So anyone that is ill that needs this and cannot buy it, they will get it. You just need to let me know. And that's oceanalchemy.com. Since I don't know you, and I don't know what you know and what you don't know, we're going to talk just a little bit about the process. The mana can be made from seawater, sea salt, reconstituted waters. Not all of them have Ormus in them. A lot of the sea salts that you buy at the grocery store are dead because of the way they've been processed. They don't have any Ormus or mana in them. So there are specific salts, and Christine can advise you more on that. The Dead Sea is loaded with it. The Great Salt Lake water is loaded with it. The oceans are loaded with it. It's constantly being uploaded into the Pacific Ocean from the Ring of Fire, which are the volcanoes. They're submerged. That's why orms are being uploaded into the seas, and from there it's distributed around the world. Now, all of those that are made from the Watt method are all the water alchemies. Those are the sea salt reconstituted into seawater, and there are other ways of making it too. We can extract these elements from minerals, ancient seabed mineral deposits, actually ores, such as gold ore, copper ore, and those are from different methods. What we have is the dry method. We can extract the forms from edible minerals, and then we have the sodium fusion, sodium burn process, where we can actually take the metallic ores and pure metals and convert them into a monatomic form. Since right now we're coming up on the equinox, I'll talk a little bit about that, because all of this really needs to come full circle before it'll make sense to you. In alchemy, we're dealing with fire. Either a vulgar fire, which is a common fire that burns your finger, like a match or a furnace. And then there are subtle fires, etheric fires. The most sacred of which is actually the spark of life. And then there are other fires that are very subtle, polarized light, such as that is reflected from the moon, etheric light radiating from the stars, or reflected from nova. These very different forms of fire, from the subtle to the common gross fire, all have a different energy. And what happens is during the full moon, we're getting much more of that polarized, reflected energy from the moon. In alchemy, this is the feminine energy, and the sun is the masculine. When we have the solstice, we have planetary alignment. These concentrate the various etheric forms of fire. And we have these basically twice a year. And around these times, it opens, windows open, where the energies are best for gathering materials from nature, for basically beginning processes or completing processes. The first and most important window is the one that's opening now. It is from late March through May. This is a time when we would go out and gather material from nature. We would gather our dew. We would gather our seawater. We would gather our minerals. We would gather our ores. We would be looking for those materials that we would be working with throughout the year. And this time of year, when we gather those natural materials, they are at the peak of their potency. They are at the peak of their aliveness. Their life force is the strongest. That's why we want to gather them at this time period. Now, there's a second window later in the year, which is mid-September through November. And that is the time where we might be completing the process that we began here during this first window, or we might be beginning another process, or we run out of some materials and need to gather some more materials. The energies aren't quite as potent because the life force is beginning to wane, and a lot of nature is going to go to sleep for the winter in the northern hemisphere. And it's the opposite for the southern hemisphere on Earth. So in alchemy, we're dealing with fire in one form or another, either the life force of the plants and minerals. Minerals are alive. Everything is alive. Don't be fooled. And what we do is we're working with this fire in one form or another. The secret fire that we work with in the Ascene technology is actually our sodium hydroxide menstruum. Our sodium hydroxide is the fire that we use to work with the wet method to get our mana from the seawater and sea salts. And when we're working with seawater, we're working with purified seawater. We're not working with raw seawater. It's very important to understand that if we get raw seawater, you don't get it anywhere near shipping lanes or anywhere near boat traffic because it puts lead and mercury into the water. And you're better off not getting water in from the top 25 feet of the water column because what you'll have there are pollutants. If you get the raw seawater as clean as possible, then you want to boil it well covered with an open flame for 20 minutes. Let it cool. As it cools, all of the matter that was alive in it, the microorganisms that were killed during the boiling will settle to the bottom. Then you want to very carefully filter that seawater, and then it's ready to do your wet method with it. The reason why you boil it and filter it is because when you do the initial pH swing with the wet process, the microorganisms will die. If you don't filter them out before you begin the process, they will putrefy in your mana and make you sick when you try to take it. In fact, you'll throw up instantly. That's the way it happens. But the actual processes themselves are in the book, Ormus, Modern Day Alchemy, that Christine and I and Barry Carter are doing the brunt of the work. Processes are in there in detail, so I won't waste this phone call on that. To get back to what we were talking about is what I wanted to tell you about fire. You understand that there are etheric fires and the spark of life. We also work with vulgar fire. Our sodium hydroxide is secret fire, and you'll realize why the first time you mix your sodium hydroxide granules into the water. It gets hot, very hot. We also work with vulgar fire. So we'll make a sodium hydroxide solution up, and we'll put the minerals in it, say edible minerals like azomite that we've gathered. And we'll boil that well covered with an open flame, vulgar fire. And once that's done, we filter that and bring the pH down with a weak hydrochloric acid solution. You can use vinegar, distilled white vinegar, and we'll get our mana. So that's come from the secret fire, and now we're working with vulgar fire. Now we go another step further. We can take metallic ores or the pure metals and burn them with pure sodium metal. A lot of people don't realize that sodium, when it's not bonded to sodium chloride as salt, sodium is actually a metal. And we fuse that with our gold or copper, and then we take that, react whatever sodium metal has not reacted because it's extremely dangerous, violent material. And then we'll do the dry method on that, which is boiling it in our sodium hydroxide. So when we take our sodium hydroxide in it and do the dry method of putting the minerals directly into it and boiling that, or if we do the sodium fusion on ores or metals and take that and then add it into our sodium hydroxide solution, the sodium hydroxide solution at that point becomes a menstruum. It is supernatant. It's pregnant with the materia. It now contains the life the light of life, that energy that helps to feed our etheric body when we make use of it. So you see that all the processes work together, because what was dry becomes wet, which becomes our mana. When we take the dry material like the azomite or other mineral source, and then we boil it in our lye solution, sodium hydroxide solution, that has become wet. And it all revolves around the sodium hydroxide, which is our secret fire. And that is illustrated by the Ouroboros, which is a snake or a dragon biting its own tail. All of these processes lead one into the next, into the next. So the students learn, they begin with the sodium hydroxide, then they perform the wet method, then they perform the dry method, and then those that have the aptitude or desire will learn the sodium fusion, sodium burn process, and that is the epitome of our work. We can literally make our mana from the refuse of the earth. We can go with these processes. We can go to the dump and shovel a bunch of trash out of the dump, perform our processes on it with intelligence, and we can actually make our mana literally from the refuse of the earth, and it will not be toxic in any way, shape, or form. It's just simply amazing. Now, we can take trash and make medicine from it. It sounds a little bit like alchemy to me, but I hope I'm not being confusing with all this. I was unable to locate my notebook, but without getting too deeply into the processes, which are all really in the book, I wanted to give you an overview for the feel of why we do these things at certain times. Like during the full moon, you have an influx of feminine energy. And that energy is present from 3 days before the full moon and 3 days after the full moon, which has lasted a full week. Okay? Well, when we have these equinox, you last for several months, where the peak is actually about 6 hours during the actual peak of the alignment. That's the time where you've heard, you can stand an egg on end and it'll stand up. I've done that several times, it's true. Egg will stand up by itself. Stand it there, hold it, you can feel it vibrate, and then just let go, it'll stay there. And 6 hours later, it'll fall over. Boom. But, these energies are real. It's not anything that, I'm making up. We can physically see an egg stand on end. Who's making that up? It's like, the Matrix. It isn't the fork that bends. It's your mind that bends. Well, your mind and heart have to open up to the real possibilities that surround us. The stars are giving energy and light. That is an etheric form of fire. Very subtle. But these things feed our life force. They feed that spark of life, the thing that keeps us alive. These elements, the mana, the orms, they feed our life force. And it's not like a drug. It's not anything that's supposed to make you high. What it does is, over time, feeds your life force, raises your life force. In turn, since your life force is raised, your immune system improves and increases. And you get to a point where you've ingested these elements, you've raised the light in your life force is high. Your body, then naturally, your life force overcomes any disease force. That is how these things heal. It is not the elements themselves that are actually doing the healing. It is your life force that is actually overcoming the disease energy, and you're able to heal. It's natural. Most everyone, when they begin taking these elements, they are, within a week or two, their body is remembering. It's something that we used to take thousands of years ago. Back then, what happened is, basically we used these materials so no one got sick. And it was, unfortunately, a lot of the energy, a lot of these materials were reserved for the elite status people. And the pharaohs and the priests would have them. The first recorded instances, whether it's true or not, the common people had access to it, is when Moses was supposed to have burned the golden calf and strawed it upon the water so the Israelites would eat of it. It's when he came down from the mountain and caught them worshiping the golden calf. Well, how would Moses have burned that gold? How would he have made that into an edible form? Because if you eat gold metal, it won't do anything. It just passes through your body. And he was doing it to raise their consciousness level. Well, he probably would have done a variation of the sodium fusion of it. I've read ancient texts where they would take gold and burn it with caustic soda and salt, and then grind it all in a mortar and pestle, and then burn it again, and repeat that over and over, grinding and burning and grinding and burning. Then they would take that material, put it into the pure rainwater, and some of it had been converted into what they called the calx, which was a white powder of gold. That would suspend in the water, and what was still metallic would fall immediately to the bottom. So they would pour the water containing the white powder off, take the gold and reprocess it, dry it out, and they would burn it and grind it, burn it and grind it back into the water. They would keep repeating this over and over again until all the material had been converted into the white powder of gold in water. And at that point, it was ready to ingest. Well, this process that I learned about, from 1470 was the year that that treatise was published. The year 1470. Now, they knew about white powder of gold back then. They knew about it 5,000 years ago in Egypt. In fact, you read some of Lawrence Gardner's books. He actually sent some people to a mountain in Pennsylvania where I was working and had me make some white powder of gold for them. And I did that by the sodium fusion process, which that information is in the book. All of this information that you would want is in the book or is going to be forthcoming. We didn't talk too much about the etheric energy and the life, the different degrees of fire in the book, but that's information that Christine and I have been talking about and will come out eventually in a coherent format. And that's about all I have for you today. I mean, Christine's going to be getting you started on how to do the processes, and those who wish to pursue them will have the opportunity.
Well, thank you, Don. We have just listened to Don Nance of Ocean Alchemy, a highly respected alchemist in his own right.
Choking on my coffee here. Sorry about that.
We're really glad that you took the time to talk to us, and we are going to come up with some good questions for you. And we're here at the Ormus Group Gathering in Marathon, Florida, and we're going to start off with questions from the group.
Hello, Mr. Nance. My name is Laura Randke, and I've been on the Ormus Forum for 3 or 4 years now. I don't say much, but I always appreciate all the information everybody puts on there. And then, of course, when I started investigating Ormus a few years ago, I was thrilled to read your account of what happened to your brother and yourself, and thankful that that is out there for other people. So I've referred people I know to that, and thank you for making that available to people. I guess I don't have a question at this point, and I just needed to say that to you personally, since I've never had any actual personal contact with you. But I just thank you for being who you are and doing what you do in the Ormus community, and that's what I wanted to say. And if I think of any questions in the future, I will definitely let you know. But thank you for your explanation, and I appreciated all the alchemical terms that you've used that I probably didn't put into the right places in terms of describing the fire and things like that, even though I have read some alchemical texts. So I found your presentation to just be extremely informative, and appreciated you talking as an alchemist in your explanation. So thank you again, and nice meeting you via phone.
You're welcome. I tell you, you can learn more about what is done with this etheric energy, the information from it. You can look at publications like the Mutus Liber,
Okay.
which is Latin for the silent book. It's all pictures, and they're showing how to gather dew, how to gather rainwater, and how to cook what you make in it. And what they don't tell you straight up is that you take your dew, but then they show it having a solid matter in it. Well, what you do is you add sea salt to it. So we come right back around to that salt again, or sodium. We use salt in almost all of these processes. So that's the key ingredient. Most times when you're looking at an alchemical treatise and they're telling you something that's obviously not right, usually what they're hiding is salt or sodium hydroxide, or the caustic sodium in one form or another.
Thank you again. That's very interesting.
Hello, Dan. My name is George Agelis. I live in Key Largo, Florida. I got into the Ormus meetings by Christine, and she's my friend for years now. And there's a lot of things I do not understand yet. I started using it though a couple months ago, and I see a different change in my life. I feel better, and I'm sure there's a lot more there to be learned. From whatever you said before, it will take me a long time for me to figure out a lot of those things. But I got an attention, you said something about an egg standing. So can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Basically, what you have are planetary alignments. Okay? And that creates a very subtle force, a subtle energy in celestial bodies. Now, all these are moving. They're all spinning, just like the Earth and the Moon. And they create an energy. It'll actually add a different form of gravity, or anti-gravity, I guess you could call it, that allows the egg to suspend. And what that is, for practical purposes, it illustrated that these energies that the alchemists work with are actually physically do exist. They are real. They're not something from our imagination. They're not any more our imagination than the stars that twinkle in the sky. The reason why they twinkle is because they're emitting light. You notice when you look at a planet like Venus or Jupiter, it doesn't twinkle. That's because its light is reflected, it's polarized, it's like the moonlight. And so you can tell the difference between these different types of energies by just simply observing nature. In fact, the simplest philosophers, alchemists, basically, they said that what they did was just study nature. That's how, like Philales would talk about the metals as having a seed, and the seed of the metals is to be found in its ore. Well, I can take gold ore and do a process on it and get much, much more white powder from it than I would get from an equal amount of pure gold. So it's true that the seed of the metals, the white powder, the monatomic form, is in the ores. So when you look at it like it's a seed, then you realize in nature a seed contains both the plant and the fruit. The seed is the whole kit and caboodle. The way that these processes work, if you do them correctly, there's no way you're getting heavy metals or any toxins at all. There are, for the purposes of this, there's no point in getting into, Gilchressing and all that stuff. It's actually some chemists that I've talked to aren't convinced that there is any such thing as a Gilchrist precipitate. So, but if you do these processes correctly, there's no way they're toxic. That's what I was trying to illustrate that point when I was talking about, we could go to the trash dump, get shovels full of that stuff, and actually make pristinely clean medicine, white powder. And I've taken some of the, I don't remember what they called it. It's from the Cretaceous period when the dinosaurs were supposed to have become extinct. I've taken a layer of that material and do the dry method on it, and you get a black menstruum. I mean, it's just jet black. It looks like coffee. And you can filter it down to 1/2 of a micron, and it's still black. You can't get rid of the color even though there are no particles in it. Well, I can do the dry method on that material and get pure M-state iridium. It looks like snot. It's clear. So then I take that and separate it from the still black water and wash it with distilled water, and it turns into a white powder. Looks just like any other mana. And what it is the seed of iridium. It is Ormus M-state iridium. And and it comes out of a jet black solution. I mean, you'd never think you would get anything like that. And it assays to be nothing. No toxins. No, I mean, it comes back barely, it says it's salt. Pretty funny.
Don, I want to thank you so much, and I want to tell all those who are listening to our time together that we have been listening to Don Nance, the premier alchemist in Florida in the United States, and what he has done for us. And yes, this is raw data, and sometimes you're going to have to work to keep it together as you're listening. But what he has done for the world for the first time is to give you the seed of the knowledge about the Essene technology. And what it is up to you to do is to take the time to listen to Don Nance and marry it with the teaching that is in basically your textbook, Ormus Modern Day Alchemy by Chris Emmons. I am...
Yes, and bless you, my soul sister, because I want people to know that I was going all over the country and in Europe and in Hawaii teaching people how to do this, and with the sole purpose that the knowledge would not get lost again. And you were the one that heard me, Christine, and you wrote the book.
Well,
and I love you and thank you endlessly for doing that.
Thank you, Don. I want the world to know that Don was my mentor, and I also had other mentors who were pure research / alchemists, and also Barry Carter. So when I share with you information, it is powerful that it comes from powerful sources. And I want you to get that the path of the seeker in the Essene technology to collect this wonderful high vitality material is laid out for you at your feet in Don's words here and in the book. Now your feet need to move forward and do your due diligence to own it, and you will be happy beyond belief for the rest of your life. We want to thank Don for being here with us today. We all want you to have a wonderful time of your day, whether it is the morning or the evening or deep in the night. We are all attached to the one. We are all together in this world together. Enjoy, just enjoy your journey. Be well, everybody.
You take care of yourselves and take care of each other. We're all here together. I mean, there's nothing separate. We're not separate from one another as so many people believe. We're all intimately connected, and we need to assume responsibility for ourselves and responsibility for humanity. So with that, I'll leave you and bless you all.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.